now joined by senior advocate in the Supreme Court, but also someone who's a Rajya Sabha MP, someone who speaks very closely on geopolitical issues, Mr. Mahesh Jethmalani. Mr. Jethmalani, we saw your tweet yesterday. We've also seen how a pathetic attempt is being made by Justin Trudeau to try and solve and obliterate and obviate what's happening in the country of Canada, the housing issues, the price rise, the 20 MPs who are after him, to try and manufacture an external threat from India. Where does this leave this pathetic man?
Well, I mean, it leaves him in a very poor position because, he's now facing a revolt from within his own party. And that's the reason why. On Sunday, the Canadian press reported that a whole lot of Liberal Party MPs were actually planning a revolt. Perhaps there's going to be a third. The leader of the opposition, the Conservative Party, has said there will be a third no-confidence motion. So on Monday, this comes out. So the timing is extremely telling. Whether there's this revolt on Sunday and Monday this happens. So, apart from Mr. Trudeau's own, leanings, there's also the internal problem which he's facing, which is the cause of what transpired yesterday.
I also want to ask you, Mr. Jethmalani, the details that you've given us and what you've stated in your own tweet when it comes to Niger's memory and how a 1-minute silence was given by Trudeau, and you actually contrast this with the Kanishka aircraft terrorist bombing.
Yes. I mean, according to me, that contrast shows how misplaced his sympathies are and where his misplaced sympathies lie. I mean, he's revering by a 1-minute silence in Parliament a terrorist, at least a terrorist acknowledged by one country, that the red corner notice with Interpol, etc. There was, right? The man is guilty of is wanted in a number of terrorist cases in India. In spite of that, when you should be looking to assuage the Indian government because of the terror this man has perpetrated, at least prima facie, and also for the fact that he is a menace. You are now actually revering him by this 1-minute silence. On the other hand, when the Indian High Commissioner has organized an event for mourning the 39th anniversary, on the 39th anniversary of the Kanish crash, meetings were organized in Ottawa and in Toronto for paying respect, for recording the respects and a memorial for the victims of Kanish, which included 89 children, by the way.
Shocking.
And that's Trudeau's sense of morality.
Mr. Jethmalani, I also want to give you some breaking news that just came in before you joined the show. Justin Trudeau is going to be deposing before an inquiry committee tomorrow on charges of Chinese interference in Canada's elections. The 194-page document that we were just going through shows that China clandestinely leveraged Canadian officials to help its favored candidates. They did so by using Canada-based officials as proxy agents to exclude political candidates perceived as anti-China. You're someone who's very closely been watching China and how they operate. Trudeau does not speak about China's interference in Canada's domestic affairs, but lo and behold, he speaks about this so-called external threat from India.
Well, I mean, in an earlier tweet, I had pointed out that the opposition was gunning, the Conservative Party was gunning for Trudeau for his pro-Chinese sentiments and his pro-Chinese links. So there's that aspect too. In fact, yesterday on your channel, I saw Monu Nalapat, link Trudeau with the what he calls the Sino-Wahhabi, tentacles which interfere in most countries which they want to subvert.
Yes, Mr. Jethmalani, also Justin Trudeau, he's not spoken of the mass immigrated record crime into Canada. He voted against harsher sentences for criminals. He took years to designate IRGC as a terrorist group. He's immigrated terrorists into Canada, harboring various hate groups in Canada, including Khalistani elements, which you spoke about. And yet, to only get a few more months of political significance, he's actually created the most shocking, historic escalation between India and Canada.
Well, yeah, I mean, his position is threatened. He might be, if the third no confidence motion succeeds, his tenure, this present tenure, which ends in 2025, is curtailed prematurely, and he needs in any case an issue to unite, to galvanize his own supporters, and to unite his party members. So, some of whom are already planning a plot against it, planning to revolt against it. So, what better issue than to rake up, some jingoism about India trying to assassinate a Canadian citizen, notwithstanding his credentials, his criminal antecedents. So this is the game. The game is to rally around people on the Niger issue, on the ground that an assassination attempt by a foreign power against that criminal was underway or was implemented. So, and the Chinese links, as you mentioned, are old. The Canadian opposition has already pilloried him for it in the past.
My last question to you, how do you think this is going to pan out for India and Canada? Because the Canadian establishment right now has to adhere to what Justin Trudeau has spoken.
Well, I think that in this, I don't know, this antipathy towards India and possibly to save his own position, Justin Trudeau has almost irretrievably spoiled relations with India. You see, the biggest aspect here is, forget Niger and his antecedents. That's one aspect. I mean, you're putting a democratic state, right, who's investigated Niger's antecedents, and you are elevating and lauding Niger himself on the one hand, but equally you have put at risk individuals who are in the highest echelons of India's diplomatic mission. I mean, there's almost these Khalistanis in Canada, and they are fringe elements. Indian Sikhs do not support them. They are fringe elements who have nothing better to do. And these fringe elements are now raking up hatred against India's diplomats, including now the High Commissioner. And the level of hate you can see in the posters. They are openly calling for his head, these Khalistani elements.
Yes, it's shocking, sir. And I think you've spoken so eloquently about how, as Justin Trudeau's ratings are taking a steep dive, it's very clear that he's using India to divert attention, to mask issues, and to try and get some political significance.